Hi guys, my name's CL Creech. I am the creator, author, and publisher of One Last Quest. I hope you're continuing along with us. If not, go back and watch the previous videos. These need to be actually watched in order. As I'm reading One Last Quest, what better way to hear the book than right from the author, right? So we're going to do chapter 4 tonight. Together again. You know what? Let's go ahead and get started. Danny and Michelle spent the rest of the day and most of the night reminiscing and talking about old times. They'd known each other since they were young kids, and which gave them a lot to talk about. Michelle was still unsure about what Danny had planned for the next day, but at least she was slowly getting more and more comfortable. Michelle slept surprisingly well that night, considering the circumstances, even if she didn't know what creepy crawly things might be sleeping with her on that couch. It felt good to be around someone that she knew cared about her. This alone made her feel at ease. The night seemed to pass very fast for Michelle. Her dreams were conflicted. Um, yeah. She had nightmares of her mother rejecting her, but she also had very nice dreams of her friends protecting her. Overall, in her mind, the good dreams defeated the nightmares. I, so I'm trying to do a Jackie voice here. Um, Give me a second. Oh no, she still looks like Mike, sort of. That's horrible. Came a strange but familiar voice to Michelle's ear. Michelle tried to open her eyes to see who was speaking, but she was still very tired and everything was blurry. Pretty sure, uh, that's still the same guy we always knew, the voice continued. She's not Mike anymore, she heard Danny scold. She's Michelle now. She's going through a really difficult time and she needs our help. That's what our quest is, remember? To save our game master. Michelle sat up slowly, pulling the blanket up over her chest. She didn't know anyone else would be there when she woke up, or maybe she would have slept in something nicer than a thigh-length nightgown and panties. She felt comfortable enough with Danny to know that he wouldn't try anything, but she didn't know about anyone else. She looked between Danny, who was sitting in the chair near the television, and the person sitting across from him trying to get her bearings. Both people were just staring at her, which made her feel very self-conscious. At the moment, she just shook her head as if having an aha moment once she realized who she was looking at. Jackie? Michelle said confusedly. The one and only? Jackie exclaimed with a smile. I didn't think your sleepy ass was going to wake up. Been here for nearly an hour. As soon as Rick and Kelly get here, we can get going. Going where? Michelle asked. Michelle looked at Jackie and then Danny in confusion, not knowing what was going on. So, I've got a surprise for you, Danny said with a bit of reluctance. We're going camping. A look of confused horror came over Michelle's face. Michelle hadn't been camping since before she moved to the city. She wished Danny had talked to her about this first. Of course, she had, or if he had, she would have refused. Danny, I can't. I appreciate the thought. I'm still not comfortable, Michelle said in almost a panic. Come on, Danny said with a smile. It'll be just like the old days, just the five of us. It'll be a couple of nights in the woods, just fishing, eating food cooked over an open fire, and LARPing. I've got my lucky buffer sword with me, Jackie exclaimed, referring to a foam sword made for LARP combat. Michelle knew that Jackie never turned down a chance for combat. It did not surprise her that Jackie brought her sword. It wouldn't surprise Michelle if Jackie had a car full of random weapons. It'll be a nice change going from busting heads to beating up you nerds. Jackie continued with a hearty laugh. It sounds fun, Michelle said with a bit of confusion. But I can't. I mean, Michelle continued to look back and forth between the two. She was still in the process of waking up and trying to put together exactly what was going on. Kelly and Rick are already on their way. Should be here any time. Jackie and the two of them both had to move a lot of stuff to make this weekend happen, Danny said. Why did you do that? Michelle asked Jackie. For Jackie, the group meant everything to her. The group helped her become the person she was. Even though she hadn't seen everyone in a long time, they were all family to her. When a family member needed her, she felt it was her duty to come running. "For you, darling," Jackie said with a smile. "Danny told us what you're going through, and, well, you need us. We're here for you." Michelle sat for a moment in quiet contemplation. This was overwhelming, and she wanted to run away, but she knew everyone went to a lot of trouble for her. Least she could do was try to smile and see what was in store, or see what they had in store. "Okay," Michelle said. "You guys went to a lot of trouble, so let's do it. But only after I get a shower and a cup of coffee." "Deal!" Danny exclaimed with a huge grin. Danny liked to make a lot of deals, or so it seemed to Michelle. At least the deals he was making seemed to help her, and she needed all the help she could get right now. "Did somebody say coffee?" Tim screamed from his bedroom, visibly irritating Danny. "Get your own damn coffee, asshole!" Danny screamed back. Michelle removed the blanket she had wrapped around her and stood up, pulling down her nightgown. Danny and Jackie both stood up as well. Michelle was trying not to show any more skin than necessary. Michelle smiled and gave Jackie a quick hug. She then picked up her overnight bag that was sitting next to the end of the couch and began to walk toward the hallway to the bathroom. As she was leaving, Jackie walked up and smacked her hard on the butt. This caused Michelle to spin around really fast and stare at her with a confused look. "Still got a great ass," Jackie said with a grin and a slight laugh. Danny smacked Jackie on the arm as if to tell her to be good. "What?" Jackie said to Danny. "She does!" "Thanks," Michelle said with a shy and confused grin before continuing down the hall, with one hand covering her butt to make sure Jackie didn't slap it again. Danny and Jackie sat on the couch talking and catching up over the next 30 minutes or so. Jackie had so many interesting stories from her time as a police officer. The more she talked, the more Danny was glad he didn't have any marijuana sitting out, or he didn't leave any marijuana sitting out. If he did, that could have led to a very awkward situation. "So anyway," Jackie told Danny, "I had this perp on the ground with cuffs on him. He wasn't moving, so I slammed his head into the sidewalk a couple of times to make sure he was alive. I don't get credit for arrest if the meat wagon hauls him off. He had a few bruises and a little broken nose, but otherwise he was fine. And with that arrest, I set a new department record." Don't you think that was a little harsh for jaywalking and throwing a cigarette butt on the ground?" Danny asked. Jackie sat up in her chair as to emphasize her next point. "Nobody litters in my city," Jackie screamed sternly. "I can see why." Danny responded awkwardly. Just then, there was a loud knock at the door, much to Danny's relief. As much as he loved Jackie, he would do almost anything to get out of this conversation. "Who is it?" "It's your mom," came a familiar voice on the. "I'm here to change your diaper." Jackie and Danny both burst out laughing, instantly recognizing the voice. "Rick, you sorry son of a bitch, come on in!" Danny exclaimed. Rick walked in immediately, and both Jackie and Danny walked up to embrace him. They all shared a smile, having not seen each other in a very long time. "Damn, you get older every time I see you," Danny said with a laugh. "And you get uglier," Rick replied with a laugh before turning toward Jackie. "And you get more, well, I would say you're pretty, but the last time I did, you tried to chop my head off with an axe." Rick was referencing an in-game moment when he called Jackie pretty. But being an orc, she took it as an insult and spent the rest of the session chasing him around, trying to cut his head off, or trying to turn his head into a trophy. "Yeah, great to see you too!" exclaimed, laughing at the memory. Rick motioned toward the door. Kelly's out at the van. She was there when I got here. She said to tell you she may be going camping with you, but she's not coming into your apartment." Danny nodded with a sad but content look on his face. He knew to expect as much from Kelly. He had to remind himself that no matter how much he loved her, that this weekend was about Michelle, not about the two of them. "So, busy morning, huh?" Jackie said to Rick. "You're not kidding. I got my mother-in-law to take the kids for a few days, so I had to double-check all their schedules. Then I had to make sure they had everything they needed for their sports and extracurricular activities. You'd be surprised how many activities kids have available to them these days. And you guys remember my oldest, right? Danny and Jackie both nodded. Well, she got her tongue pierced without telling anyone yesterday, Rick continued. So I had to run to the pharmacy and get some antibacterial mouthwash. And also, my wife had a huge meeting this morning, and I forgot her flash drive at home. So I had to go back home, find it, take it to her office. After that, I was finally able to head over. Yeah, we all forget things when we're busy, Jackie said with a grin. What do you mean? Jackie pointed at Rick's feet, looking down, realizing they had one tennis shoe and one house shoe on. Oh well, Rick said with a laugh. I had my hiking boots one of my bags anyway. As everyone was laughing, Michelle walked in the room wearing a tank top and shorts, drying her hair. She could hear Rick's voice before she even walked out of the bathroom. Rick had a very deep voice, and it was like music to Michelle's ears. Rick walked over, embracing her, screaming, "Mike!" Rick froze immediately, realizing his mistake. He became flustered and tried to think fast. Unfortunately, thinking fast was not Rick's strong suit. What was it? Michelle! Rick said, looking at Danny, who nodded. It's good to see you, Rick, Michelle said with a big smile. Rick was the oldest of the group by a few years. Michelle had always looked at him as both a big brother and maybe a young father figure. Seeing him as a father figure was always easy in her eyes, as he was the only one with kids. You too. You look good. You're gorgeous, Rick said. Rick's compliment made Michelle feel good about herself. At least she didn't have to worry about Rick trying to touch her butt, she thought, glancing at Jackie, who had a confused look on her face. Thanks, Michelle said before turning to Danny. Do you have any coffee? We're running late, Jackie said. We'll grab some on the road. Kelly's down at the van, Danny said, trying to hide his excitement. Calm down, Jackie said sternly. Rick helped Michelle with her bags, and Danny grabbed his. They all walked down from Danny's second floor apartment to his van in the parking lot. Jackie got her bags from her car, and Rick started loading the van. Kelly was at the van waiting for them. She took this time to remind Danny exactly where he stood with her. She immediately got in his face. Look, if you touch me, Kelly said, waving a finger in Danny's face, if you look at me, if you even think about me, I will beat you within an inch of your miserable and pathetic life. Well, what if Danny started to ask with an almost enthusiastic look on his face. No, Kelly screamed. That will get you killed faster than anything. The only reason I'm here is for Michelle. Do we have an understanding? Yes, ma'am, a defeated Danny said as he stared at the ground. Michelle and Jackie stood a few feet away watching the whole exchange go down. Thought Kelly was into the whole peace and nature thing, Michelle asked Jackie, trying to figure out exactly what was going on. Well, what they had, it wasn't natural, Jackie replied with an awkward smirk. Makes sense, Michelle said after a brief pause. Just as Danny started to walk off and ponder what he was doing with his life, Rick shut the doors of the van, saying, We're all loaded up. Everyone ready? Everyone looked at each other, checking to make sure they had everything. They each then nodded or said something to the affirmative. Let's hit the road, Rick said with a huge grin. And that ends us with chapter 4. Getting on the road. The quest is getting started, guys. Hope you guys are enjoying me reading one last quest. I know I'm not the best at doing voices. Um, these characters mean so much to me. I actually hear their voices in my head as my own voice. So it is a little daunting. Tomorrow, when you tune back in, we'll pick up with chapter 5. I hope you guys have a great day, and we'll see you soon.